Hey everybody, I'm Taylor,
And I'm Matt.
and we're making a little podcast here. My friend Matt here has got an awesome opportunity to go to Dubai in a foreign exchange program, and so we're kind of just maximizing on that opportunity. We're making a little podcast. Matt's asked me to call him periodically and just see, what's up. And so we've decided to record those conversations and just kind of just dig in. And I have a ton of questions for him because I have a lot of questions about Dubai and the culture, the experience, the cars, right? And so, what this podcast is all about is just understanding Dubai and how it relates to our experiences as individuals and as Americans and as citizens of the world. So, Matt, go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself, if
Yeah,
you don't mind.
like Taylor said, my name is Matthew Holiday Farina. That's what it says on my birth certificate. And I am from Gainesville, Florida. And that's how Taylor and I know each other. But I currently study at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville. And UNF has a great student exchange program, and they have a lot of partnerships with different universities around the world. And it just so happens that they have a partnership with the University of Dubai. And so that's why I'm here in the UAE. I got on a plane on January 11th, so just about 2 weeks ago, and I set out for the great unknown. And like Taylor said, we're going to be doing these calls periodically to just kind of talk about my different experiences and really kind of digest everything that's going on inside of me and around me.
That's awesome, Matt. Well, I have questions already, and I really want to get to them. But I just want to say to our listeners, we also have an Instagram page and a Facebook page that we've got going. And if you want to see more of Dubai in subsequent episodes, we will have different scenery in the background for Matt and for myself. But if you want to check out the Instagram, it is Try Dubai 17, and the Facebook is the same thing at Try Dubai 17. Let's dive in. Matt, you had this foreign exchange opportunity. You went to the powers that be at UNF, and you asked them, "Where should I go? What should I do? I wanna be useful to this university." And you take it from there. What happened?
Yeah, so basically this past summer, I saw that there was an informational session at UNF about one of their study abroad programs. So I went to that, and I
Hmm.
was the only guy that showed up. There was just kind of this
Nice.
lady standing at the front of this conference room, and I just walked in. And I'm like, "Hey, like, am I in the right place?" And so I wound up gathering more information, and then set up some appointments. And there was
Wow.
actually different faculty and students from a master's program at UNF that went to Dubai this past summer. So I got their contact information and met with them, just to kind of hear about their experience at the university and in Dubai and
Awesome.
the greater Middle East. And then from there, I just had a lot of paperwork to fill out, a lot of scholarships to apply for.
Hmm.
But fortunately, everything came together, and here I am.
Here you are, and here we are. Uh,
Yes.
so So how did you choose Dubai though? Because you could have. I remember you mentioned that you could have gone to, Europe. You could have gone to China. I think you said Brazil. Like what was it about Dubai that was like that's where I got to go?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. And honestly, I had never really met anyone that had been to Dubai. It wasn't an area that I was super familiar with. I had heard about, the Lamborghinis and the Rolexes and all that jazz. But when I saw the University of Dubai on the list of the different partnerships that UNF had, I it just really kind of stuck out to me, and I was like, that seems just
Right.
like a really exotic place, and I'm definitely one for going on an adventure, and so I felt like this was the
Okay.
perfect place to be.
Well, yeah, dude, I'm super jealous. I think that this opportunity for you is like, it's once in a lifetime. I mean, right now we're seeing people walk behind you and like just I'm just wondering what are those dudes up to? Those could be like just billionaires there, just like planning the development of the next like tallest tower in the entire world. But before we, at the risk of getting too off track here, I kind of wanted to ask you about some of the goals you have. You've gotten this awesome opportunity. Some would say you don't deserve it. It's just been plopped down in your lap. But so what are you going to do to make sure it's not squandered? What are you going to do to make sure it's not wasted? Do you have what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish?
Yeah, so actually, when I was sitting in JFK Airport, getting ready to get on the plane to head over here, I took some time to think about that because I didn't
Mhm.
want this trip to be too structured or too planned, um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I did want to give myself some sort of direction and some sort of purpose, and so I was kind of able to break it
Hmm.
down into three different categories, if you will. And the first one was
Hmm.
just to thrive academically.
Okay.
That's pretty basic, but still really important because, like I said
Hmm.
before, I've been really fortunate to receive different scholarships and financial support from the university and other individuals. And so I really want to
Okay.
honor UNF and those people by just doing well in the classroom.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And the second one is just to thrive socially. I'm a very kind
Okay.
of outgoing and energetic person, and so I derive a lot of energy from just being with people and having meaningful interactions. And plus, two,
Hmm.
I just think developing meaningful relationships with the people in different areas is just an effective way to get to know the culture. And so
Awesome.
that's really important to me as well. And then the third one, which some people consider to be especially ambitious, but I definitely think I'm up for the challenge. And that is to marry a Persian princess so that money is no longer an object for me and I can
Uh-huh.
just be just kind of like Mr. Mom and just take the kids to
Right.
school and clean the house.
Well, it sounds like you got it all figured out, Matt. And you're definitely going to do UNF some good with that plan. So I was thinking, what with these goals, you're going to apply them, and I know you're going to do real well. I know you're going to thrive socially, and you're going to perform within your educational parameters very well. Because I know you, I've known you for a long time, but you had to have had some expectations coming into this with like, just the culture. Is it going to be safe? Are you going to be insulted? Are you going to be marginalized? You probably don't look like a lot of the people that you live with, but are you going to be, you know, perhaps put on a pedestal and maybe expected to perform a certain way? What were some of your expectations of Dubai and how Dubai would perceive you?
So as part of kind of like preparation for the trip, I had to write some different essays and do some
Hmm.
different projects to kind of just gain a better sense of the cultural background and just the societal standards. And so
Okay.
coming to Dubai, I had a basic understanding of what to expect socially and religiously with Islam
Hmm.
and then just kind of culturally with some of the different traditions. Um, but honestly, it like to some extent you would kind of think that I would be treated like a rock star of sorts, just because there's really not
Right.
many Americans here. I've yet to meet an American, and I've been here for now almost 2 weeks. Um,
Yeah.
and so just being at a coffee shop like this, or going to class, or just walking around downtown, I just kind of would have thought I would have caught a lot of looks and different stuff like that. But for the most part,
Hmm.
that hasn't really been the case. I feel just kind of like everybody else, just kind of like a normal person. But I will
Okay.
say that in class, a lot of the classmates that I have and the professors that I'm around, they are very curious. So
Huh.
it's never in a way that makes me feel uncomfortable, but they ask a lot of questions. They're extremely friendly, extremely helpful, and
Okay.
they've really made me feel right at home.
Had a little buddy walking by there, kind of distracted me. The that's super awesome, because I know that you go to a new place, any place, even in America, even Europe. People are gonna immediately be able to identify you're not from that community, right? You're gonna be wearing something that's a little off. You're gonna be, speaking in a certain way that people are gonna be able to immediately identify. Okay, this guy's not from Alabama. This guy's not from Boston. And so you don't like in America, you don't judge them necessarily. You might be like, okay, you don't you like a sports team that I hate, but I would imagine the Middle East, it might be a little bit of a problem if you're not from there. But it seems like you were well received so far, at least in your academic experience. I know that you're living with a few folks that aren't from the United States. How has your experience meeting them and living with them? I know you've been there for like about a week and a half now. How's your experience with those folks really come along?
That experience has been indescribable. So originally, when I was planning this whole trip and getting everything set up, I had everything taken care of except my housing situation. I had bought my plane ticket, I had registered for classes, I had applied for a visa, but the housing situation for me was still kind of the great unknown. And the University of Dubai doesn't have on-campus housing, but there was a couple different places in the area that they recommended, and when I was checking those out, they just seemed a little, just a little expensive, and so I just thought I could find a cheaper and a better option, and so I winded up being referred to a website called Dubizzle, which is basically Dubai's version of Airbnb, and a lot of
Right.
people post rooms for rent and also bed spaces, and so I got on
Okay.
there and I found a bed space that was really close to the university, and so I contacted the gentleman who was advertising it, and we
Mhm.
emailed back and forth over the course of about a week or two,
Okay.
and finally it got to the point where I just said, hey, like I'll be arriving in Dubai on the 12th. And if you let me know where your apartment is and what the apartment number is, I can take a cab and I'll pay first month's rent cash in
Sweet.
hand. And so it was a little bit of a gamble because I never met this gentleman face to face, but he seemed like a trustworthy and likable individual over the emails, and so I thought I'd just give it a shot, um,
There you
and
go.
uh, and so I wound up taking a taxi once my flight got in to this apartment, and I rolled up with my two suitcases and knocked on the door, and this little like Indian man answered the door, and I was just like, hey, like what's up? My name's Matthew. Like, are you Aftab? And he's like, no, like
Yeah.
my name's Danny, but Aftab's in the kitchen. Like, come inside. And so I walk into this kitchen, and there's this gentleman standing there in his underwear, smoking a cigarette while he's washing dishes, and he just kind of looks at me, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, dude? Like, my name's Aftab. Like, welcome to my spot."
Wow.
And from there, our friendship has just blossomed.
Standing there in his underwear, huh?
Oh yeah.
I think we can all relate to that at some point in our lives. No matter where you are, those munchies will kick in. Late night, you ain't got any clothes on, or you got to go downstairs. You got to get you something to eat. So at the end of the day, if you're in Dubai or you're in Florida or you're in Wisconsin, you're gonna have you some food. Thanks for sharing though, man. That's pretty awesome. Just how you were able to hit it off with these guys you've never met before. Had they ever met an American before?
That's a great question, dude. I'm really not sure. They seem like really comfortable around me. They speak good English, um,
Mhm.
and so I can only assume that they have. They watch a
Okay.
ton of movies. They love to watch movies. I'll wake up. It'll be like
Okay.
3 o'clock in the morning, and Aftab will just be sitting in the kitchen once again in his underwear, smoking a cigarette, and just watching all the popular American movies. They love
Okay.
they love Step Brothers, dude, with Will Ferrell. That's like that's their favorite movie, um, and so I think through a lot of kind of like entertainment and pop culture, they've just kind of developed a better understanding for just American society. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff that we see on TV or in movies is not always the most accurate reflection. And so, just as
Right.
much as I'm learning from them, they're learning from me. And I think that's
Uh
what's
huh.
really cool about us living together.
It's pretty cool, man. I've had roommates in the past, but the roommates that I've had, they've all grown up like within 20, 30 miles of where I've grown up. So it's really not that different. And yet there was still, differences. But ultimately you're moving in with people who have come from such a different background, such a different nurturing and different nature. With that being said, we're all humans, so it's the mindset is still very much the same. Just seeking happiness, seeking fulfillment, and in some ways, they may have found it more than we have. So Matt, I remember you were telling me a story we had called earlier in the week. Were you getting picked up for school from some of your friends? You want to share that story?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said before, I stay pretty close to the university. It's about a 45-minute walk, but they do have public transportation, so most days I can just take the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And the bus stop is probably like a 10-minute walk from the university, and so I'll get off the bus, and there's just kind of like this 10-minute stretch, and most days I enjoy walking. The weather's really nice right now. It's the winter season, like in Florida, and so the weather's not too hot, and especially at night, because on Sunday night I have class from 6 to 9. And so walking home at night is just absolutely gorgeous. It's, the desert's so peaceful, and the moon's shining down. But I remember one of the first days that I was walking home from class. I had my headphones in, and I was listening to some music and just kind of reflecting on the lecture that my professor had just given. And this like super sick Jag like pulls up next to me. It was like this really beautiful maroon color, and it had these black tinted windows, and just like these sick rims. And it comes like rolling up next to me, and I thought for sure like it was about to be like a drive-by shooting. I thought I was done for. But the driver of the vehicle wound up being this dude that I had class with, and he just rolled down his window, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man? Like, would you like a ride?" And I was kind of like taken back by his question, because when I'm back in Florida and I'm walking to the grocery store or to class, or just to different places, like I feel like no one kind of gives second thought to like offering just like a random stranger a ride. And yet like here this dude was, like, we had never met before. I guess he had seen me in class, but I had not noticed him, and he was just like kind enough to offer me a ride. And so I accepted his offer, and he wound up taking me home, and we just kind of chatted for a little bit.
Wow.
and introduced ourselves to one another. And I think maybe like one of the most intriguing aspects of all this is this was not just like a one-time occurrence. Now, pretty much every day, when I'm walking home from class, not just students but also faculty members at the university will offer to give me rides home. And I just find that so amazing, especially for the faculty members, because I think at a lot of universities in the U.S., the faculty members just like aren't very accessible, and for them to like stop and offer me a ride is just like, it's extremely humbling. But I love it because I'm able to just get to know so many different people, and even if it's a 5-minute drive, we're still able to have some great conversations.
That's unreal to think that somebody in a Jaguar would just pull over and just be like, "Hey, hop in, man. I'm going to school too." It's great. It's great. It's how it should be. It seems like they're very trusting. Where you are in the suburb of Dubai that you're staying in. What are some other experiences that you've had so far that really exhibit that sense of trust that you may not see in the States?
Yeah. So one of the big things that I've noticed too is just not just with the UAE nationalists who are called Emiratis, but also with my roommates. So 4 of my roommates are from India, and then the 5th one is from Nigeria, and his name's Nanzo.
Okay.
And I actually wrote an article about him that I posted on our Facebook page, so make sure you go check that out.
Okay.
But Nanzo is currently pursuing his master's degree at Harriet Watt University, which is close to the University of Dubai. Within probably 5 minutes of us first meeting, he he made this comment, and it was something to the effect of like, "I'm so glad that I've met an American because now I have someone to stay with when I visit or move to Florida." Um,
There you go.
and and at first I wasn't necessarily shocked, but I was surprised to some extent because it's like we just met each other,
Yeah.
and now he's talking about like living together. Um, and but it wasn't like he was
Yeah.
speaking with like this spirit of entitlement, like, you know, you're gonna serve me. Rather, he just like has an
Uh-huh.
extreme amount of trust, for the different
Uh-huh.
individuals that he interacts with. And he just kind of
Right.
assumes, just with this childlike ignorance or innocence, almost, I guess is a better word, that I
Uh-huh.
feel the same way. Um,
Wow.
and I think that's just like so healthy because, at least for me in America, it's so hard to develop that kind of trust, and that kind
Yeah.
of intimacy, with the people that I'm around. It takes a lot of time before you begin inviting someone into your home, eating food with them, or, you know, just hanging out and shooting the breeze. And so being able
Mm-hmm.
to kind of, experience that different kind of cultural attitude here, has just been extremely special, because, like you were saying earlier, it just kind of reminds me that we're all human beings and that we're all in this together, and that we're having a lot of fun, in the process.
If you had like a big like bar of gold, right, and you're just walking around with it outside, from a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable would you be just leaving it right there and like walking into a building and using the restroom or something and then coming back?
I would not be comfortable at all. I would hold on to that thing like it was my child. But, to kind of go with your analogy, um, and to kind of emphasize your point, it is very safe here in that sense. Like right now, I'm currently on my laptop. It's a MacBook Air. It's like a $1,200 computer. Shout out
Mm-hmm.
to Apple. Hopefully they'll, sponsor us soon, and we'll get a fat paycheck. But it is a very, expensive piece of electronic equipment, and
Right.
at this coffee shop I'm at right now, I would feel completely comfortable, leaving it here on this table outside, walking inside to get a cup of coffee and to use the restroom.
Wow.
Um, and I would have no problem doing that, simply because people have a tremendous amount of respect, not just for one another, but also for personal property. And there's just kind of this unspoken agreement where you don't mess with someone
Wow.
else's stuff. And so I think it just
Hmm.
once again, it kind of develops that trust between individuals on a relational level, but then also just on a societal level.
You're painting a picture of this country in the Middle East that I know so little about, right? I've heard so little about. If I've heard anything about it, it was just, oh, everybody out there is like inexorbitantly wealthy, right? Or, that's where, yeah, something like that. So, what you're painting a picture of is, yeah, they might be wealthy. You're reinforcing that idea, but they're also extremely trusting. They're also extremely respectful, and they have this sense of community that might be a little different than what we're used to, or it might be a lot more similar to what we're used to than we may have anticipated. What is really driving your adventurous side while you're out there? Because it seems like your expectation was, it's going to be like maybe fast paced. It might be kind of dangerous, and that's going to add to the adventurous part of this. But now that you found it's very safe, very welcoming, what do you find is going to be the adventure of this trip?
Yeah. So part of it is just kind of like the way I was raised. My older brother Dan, which huge shout out to him. I miss you, dude. He used
Huge shout out.
Yes, to big Dan the man. He and I, used to always say to each other, growing up, that you got to risk it for the biscuit. And
There you go.
so it's like,
Write that
if
one down.
yeah, it's like if you wanna make the most of something, you kind of have to take the initiative, and really just go for it. And I think that's part of like what college is all about. It's like we have this certain
Yeah.
level of freedom that's not going to be possible, once we really get into our, career, once we begin to have families, and take on all those different responsibilities. And so just,
True.
realizing that kind of like the time is now, really kind of motivates me to get up in the morning and explore and just experience all that it is that I can. And that's not to say that, I don't take time to kind of rest and relax. I've gotten really into Game of Thrones. One of my roommates, actually Nanzo, introduced me to Game of Thrones. And so I've been, I'll sit in my bed and watch some of that and stuff. But at the same time, it's like having that healthy balance and also kind of just getting out and seeing the world and seeing this place that, is just so different from Jacksonville and Florida.
Well, that's great, man. That's a great sense of adventure. You mentioned the morning. Would you mind mentioning what time it is there, where you're at?
Yeah. So it's currently 8 a.m. There's a 9-hour difference between where I'm at right now and Florida. So I believe you guys are 9 hours behind. So it's like a Tuesday night.
You can see. It's actually super dark outside, as you can see. It is like it's 10 p.m. It's 10 p.m. here. So yeah, it's pretty wild. But just to think that you've got to be on the other side of the world right now. Like there's just orbs floating around in space, and you're on the other side of one of those orbs than I am, and we're just communicating with each other via the interwebs. Anyway, that metaphysical moment was brought to you by Apple, courtesy of Steve Jobs.
Oh yeah, huge shout out to him.
Almost as big as the Daniel shout out, but not as much. Anyway, so your sense of adventure is coming from more of like a like reassessing, rebalancing, and really finding something really adventuring in yourself, right? Kind of figuring out some intrinsic motivation and how that's kind of like brought you to where you are now, and then maybe also kind of mirroring that into your environment and seeing how that's reflected.
Beyond just kind of that desire to experience an adventure and to achieve goals, like there's also some insecurity to some extent, and a lot of times I don't like talking about this, and I think most people don't like talking about this because it puts us in a position of vulnerability. But like anybody, I really kind of struggle with insecurity, but that also motivates me to kind of go out and conquer the world. And so a lot of the other guys that I lived with last year, they were all going on different trips and just having these awesome experiences. And meanwhile, I was just kind of sitting at home, working at Carrabba's as a server, and just not really doing a whole lot. And like I felt bad about that to some extent. But yeah. I think it honestly winded up being something that was really healthy. Because it just reminded me that like we all have a choice when it comes to this kind of stuff. Yes, it might be a little more difficult to go out and move into unfamiliar territory and around unfamiliar people. Right. But if we're willing to put forth the effort and make the necessary sacrifices, we can certainly do things that we never imagined to be possible. Because 3 or 4 years ago, if someone would have told me like, hey, you're going to be in Dubai, you're going to be experiencing all these different things and meeting all these people, like I probably wouldn't have believed you. Like, yeah, it would have seemed feasible, but I just wouldn't have really thought that it would have actually become a reality, and yet it has, and that's part of the reason why I'm just so thankful to be here, and I'm so excited for what lays ahead of me.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. That bit about yourself. I think it's going to benefit our listeners to be able to have, just have some dialogue about that, kind of going on. But yeah, man, I think we all experience insecurities, and no matter where you are in the world, you're going to be vulnerable to that. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how rich you are, you're always going to have some self-doubt. But at the flip side of that, though, you've done the best thing is that self-doubt just means that you have room to improve, which means you can take that step forward, conjure up that intrinsic motivation to do what you need to do to overcome those doubts. And ultimately, your insecurities can be your friend in that scenario. So we're going to kind of wrap up a little bit. Again, Matt, I'm super appreciative to what you're doing here. Just want to remind our listeners that we do have an Instagram. It's Try Dubai 17, and also Facebook. I always enjoy these conversations. So far, this is the first one we've recorded. And I also look forward to seeing more content that you send me to put on Instagram. I love doing that. And it looks like we might have a professional be handling that Instagram account as well at some point. So we can talk more about that. But Matt, I appreciate you doing what you've done so far, and thanks to UNF again for this awesome opportunity that they've given you. And let's just try to remember that adventures are kind of where the unexpected meets the indescribable. That's really kind of the truth that we're finding out here so far, at least from what you're saying. So with that in mind, I thank you for listening and hope to hear you from you next time.
All right, see you guys.